Nick Olson, Chupacabra Offroad, back in the mountains, back in the desert of northern Arizona. Spending some time in the new Turbo S Dynamix, new to me, 2019. First real ride on it. Had about 30 miles before this trip, just kind of took it out locally to break in the belt, check it out really quick, and yeah, now I've got about a day and a half on it. So far really liking it. Really enjoy the dynamic suspension. Right now, as we're talking, it's September 2019. There's really good deals on leftover Velocity editions, and also some good deals on X3 XRS. So it's kind of hard to quantify based on everyone's needs if you think it's worth extra money for the dynamic suspension. But after about a day and a half of some real riding with it, going almost 80 miles an hour, going a couple miles an hour, I really like it. I like to go to all different types of environments. I'm going to take it to Moab, I'm going to take it to Glamis, and pretty much everywhere in between. So I'm really digging it. It's good for stock. Of course, I'm going to respring and revalve it, but so far really enjoying using it. I probably hit that button maybe 40 or 50 times. The sport mode's pretty cool in between because it starts to get a little bit stiffer as your speeds increase. So pretty well thought out. Good job on that one, Polaris. Man, that was a fun ride in northern Arizona. We've got the full video on our YouTube channel if you want to check it out. But good first test for the car. Get to spend 300 miles in it over the course of 3 days and get used to it in a lot of different terrain. We started off in Happy Jack, which was some slow, rocky terrain, and got into some high-speed stuff. So it was a great first break-in ride for the RZR. So if you've been following the channel, you know that I've owned several RZRs over the years, from a full-blown race car to several different 64-inch versions of the 1000 in turbo. So it was nice to own the S model. I mean, the main reason why I bought the Turbo S over the X3 is because I do think it is the toughest, most stout, well-built side-by-side on the market. And it definitely felt that way when I got to spend a couple days with it, with the wider suspension, beefier front diff, no real noises or squeaks, and everything felt really good and tight. Speaking of how tough that vehicle is, I love how it comes off the showroom floor, some big, heavy 32-inch tires, and clutching felt really good. Most of my previous RZR turbos have had 32s, and this felt good. The clutching felt pretty spot on. It had good acceleration, pretty good braking, and all that type of thing. So right out of the box, I'm really happy with it. And speaking of those tires, I thought those tires worked really well. A buddy of mine's got almost 2,000 miles on his, and they look really good, the ITP Coyotes. They should hold up really well and work really well in my opinion, because they're heavy at almost 45 pounds a piece. So I liked how they felt when we were going fast, when we were going slow, a little bit of mud that we ran into, of course, dry and dusty situation. So like those a lot, and I think if you were interested in those, if you found a set of takeoffs that somebody is selling off their Turbo S for a good deal, those would be a really good value. So on our ride, we had about 12 or 13 vehicles. We did only have one flat tire, and that was a guy who had a set of old, worn out Bighorns. So not surprising, and it's worth noting that most of these new school 32-inch tires are pretty stout, and I've seen very few flats in my personal experience. And I did this ride without a full-size spare. I did have plugs, but luckily I didn't have to worry about anything. And like I said, I'd recommend these. The main reason why I'm not going to stick with them is because they are heavy, and I'm excited to try out those Tensor DS tires. So I just picked up a new set of Tensor DS 33s that are going to be going on it. Those are about 5 pounds lighter per tire. So in my opinion, it gives me more peace of mind that it's going to have less wear and tear on everything, less issues long term, and better acceleration and better braking. The Tensor DS seems to be like really the hot new tire right now, and they are race proven. So I'm hoping they're going to work really well. I mean, they were not cheap. And my biggest concern is that they might wear out pretty quickly. I did get the hard compound, so hopefully I'm okay with those. I do have a full-size spare just in case, but hoping those are going to work out in almost all my riding conditions. The lighter weight's going to come in nice when I'm up in places like Sand Hollow and I can't run sand paddles, and hopefully they're grippy when I take it to Moab next year. So I touched earlier on the dynamic suspension, and after this ride was over, I hit that button almost 100 times, maybe because it was new to me. It was fun to play with, but I think it's really hard to figure out how much is that worth extra. I think a lot of people think it's better. I definitely liked having it, but as you compare that to other models on the market, is it worth the extra money? And I think if you're like me, particularly if you've got a 4-seater and you like going in all different types of conditions, I do think it's worth the money. I loved it. when I'm going almost 80 miles an hour on some fast stuff, having it in the firm mode really gave it a different characteristic. It was really firm. It didn't sway a lot in turns. It just had like more of a rally car, stiff, fast characteristic, which I really liked. And then of course, softening it up when I'm going slow over rocks, it was just more comfortable and it made it a more enjoyable ride. So that type of stuff, I think for long multi-day rides like that, you know, when you're in the vehicle for 8-10 hours at a time, it's just nice and makes the experience better. So I think it's worth the money. I like the ride command. When I take the ride command out duning, I'll save the trails and I'll use those for when I'm going night riding if I'm leading a dune ride, because as many times as I've been to Glamis, I still get turned around, and like having that as a guide where I'm going from all the different points, let's say the hill or the swing and whatnot. The IQS system that Shock Therapy is offering for you Can-Am guys is about $2,500. It has its own ECU and does the same type of thing, maybe not as sophisticated as the Polaris system, but I think it's pretty reasonable price-wise with springs, with valving for that kind of dose. So gives you guys an option if you're not looking at a Polaris, which is cool. King seemed like it was a prototype setup. Who knows when that's going to see the light of day, but exciting that another major brand is also working on this technology, and it kind of reaffirmed that my thoughts that this is the future of where we're headed. So overall, really excited about how the Turbo S handled the first 300 miles. We're getting a bunch of upgrades put on it, getting it ready for Camp Razor. We're going to take it out duning, but I hope this gives you a little bit more food for thought if you're thinking about this model. If you're just curious about suspension, live valve, smart suspension tuning, I think we're just in the first inning. I think there's going to be some software updates we'll be able to do in the future, and I'm excited about that. So hope this helps you make a better decision if you're thinking about buying a new side-by-side or thinking about investing in this if you are a Can-Am guy. So if you've got a Dynamix model, go ahead and comment below. Let us know what you think. Was it worth spending the extra dough on, or do you feel like you would have gone with the base model instead? I'm Nick Olson. Thanks for watching Chupacabra Offroad. If you guys like this content, please like and subscribe, and we've got a lot more coming your way.